This one was supposed to be a quickie. I just wanted to get these thoughts out of my head since it is something that I've seen become more and more prevalent throughout the years. I want to talk about some of the issues that really bother me since I, in good conscience, cannot keep watching people destroy their livelihoods over internet clout, especially due to recent events of people calling out a couple creators in the space whom I will not mention since they are minors and I feel like naming them in this video is contradictory to what I actually feel. However, I may or may not use their recent situation as a base on why the community is so completely irresponsible and lackluster when it comes to handling serious situations. Not that I can put full blame on the community since it is filled to the brim with children and quite frankly idiotic adults. As I kept writing my script, I realized that I had more and more grievances as I went along, so this video is gonna be however long, I don't know. The editing's gonna be lackluster and I do apologize for that. Anyways, with all that pretense, now I want to get to the actual intro. There has been more and more people throughout the years that have talked and acknowledged a lot of the problems that are in the AMC. And I do partially believe that most of these problems have to do with the individualistic mindset that a lot of content creators in the space as well as the audience holds. This problem not only affects these communities but also the entire internet and people in general. However, I do not believe that most of us are ready for this conversation, nor do I believe I'm qualified enough to talk about the larger issue at hand. I joined the animation meme community since 2017, and due to association with our sister community, the art commentary community, I have been participating as mostly a bystander. I joined when I was 11 and I am now 19. I believe with the amount of time that I have experienced, I can provide insight into why I believe the things I do when it comes to the topic at hand, primarily the problems in the community. I am not saying that my word is the complete truth, as I am a person that has certain biases just like anyone else. I would also like to mention that my experience in both of these communities will never be the same as the next person, and therefore everyone will have different opinions regarding the issue, and I think that's completely fine. I just think that it's important to start a conversation about the issues that have been exacerbated over the years and to provide a solution whenever I can, because I believe that just complaining about stuff is not really helping anyone. I do want to preface this by saying that both of these communities are filled with a vast pool of children who were not and are not able to socialize themselves properly. Not to mention that a lot of the children and adults in both of these communities are some form of mentally ill, adding on to the lack of empathy and community that has been seen in the previous years. Everyone's egos are way too high and it shows clearly in some of y'all. Ableism in the community is so rampant that it's genuinely exhausting having to see someone getting called out for showing symptoms of their mental illness. Most of the time, these mental illnesses are one the person having them can barely control. Of course, sometimes mental illness cannot be used to justify one action, and in most cases, the perpetrator is still someone conscious about their actions. Their mental illness just makes it harder for them to be able to make the right decisions to their own impulsivity. The issue lies with the majority of the time I see someone having problems with social cues, and instead of kindly explaining to them that their actions are not socially acceptable, they are harassed by the public and made to become more isolated. This furthers the issue at hand due to nobody wanting to listen to randoms that are constantly yelling at you, and honestly I don't really blame them either. Sometimes the aggressiveness of the audience makes me believe that the end goal of these harassment campaigns are to isolate the person to make them worse. I do believe that it is somewhat dishonest to a degree if one has been in the community for more than 2 years and hasn't seen the same situation of a kid being bullied for being mentally ill. And instead of receiving guidance, they are told to off themselves, furthering their isolation. A very simple solution to this problem is to be open to people making mistakes, especially if they are minors. Trying to be understanding of the bad actions that someone might take. This way you can use this understanding to be able to properly guide whoever is making said mistake into the right direction. Try to avoid being unnecessarily cruel. If you find yourself typing or saying something that is incredibly rude, take a step back and come back. If your hatred is persistent, leave the situation to people who are able to properly assess the conflict in a calmer manner than you. Either way, no situation or problematic artist should be restricting your happiness. Instead, you can encourage people who are actively improving themselves. Providing a sense of notice to someone's improvement can not only make the person improving feel better, thus encourage them to continue on with their self-improvement, but it can also encourage others to improve on themselves. It is also important to remember that no self-improvement will be linear. There will be highs and lows in someone's healing, and it is important to keep encouraging them to lift them. I feel like providing a space where people are allowed to grow in a firm but nicer community can decrease the amount of toxicity and vitriol that is seen in both of these communities. Now, concerning the opposite side of this issue regarding the mentally ill individuals themselves. Not all of these individuals act with goodwill. These people become too comfortable unleashing their problematic and dangerous thoughts onto the internet for everyone, including gullible children, to see. I believe that this behavior is a mixture between people believing that their mental illness can be used as a quote-unquote explanation for everything, and also partially for attention seeking, especially when in regards to minors. Many times these people make themselves little echo chambers where they are self-secluding and unable to take any criticism, whether it be constructive or not. Those who want a sense of community might enter these dangerous echo chambers for this sense of belonging. I feel like this issue is perpetrated by the community as a whole, bullying those for mundane things such as opinions and art styles, but that is discussed later in the video. The best advice that I can give people who struggle with their mental illness, especially as someone who is schizophrenic and has gone through psychotic episodes where I have been incredibly impulsive, is to keep your inside thoughts inside your brain. Please stop treating public spaces and your public platforms as your personal diaries. If you are to find yourself in a state of mental well-being where you are actively being destructive, please leave your public social media for a bit. I can assure you that the consequences of whatever impulsive decision you make in the public's eye will only worsen your mental health. Please take some time to heal off the internet and take some time surrounded by people who actually care for you, not by a community that will actively use your mental illness against you. There is a major problem with the deification of people in these communities. Large figures are expected to be near perfect, and due to this are heavily scrutinized when making simple mistakes. They are bombarded with expectations of their audience, and if they are to do anything wrong, they are demonized for it. This causes content creators to not accept any sort of criticism, since most of the criticism that they do receive is extremely rude and cruel. Not to mention that now that they have a large audience, they have appearances to uphold. It can also be extremely anxiety inducing to realize that everything you do and everything you say is constantly being watched. People do not treat you as a human, they treat you as a machine that needs to constantly keep spitting out opinions that they can agree with. And whenever you make a mistake, they would treat you like you're inhuman. This is made worse because sometimes when a person gets called out, a lot of their constituents or so-called friends will make videos on them perpetrating the thought of their friendship being all for naught. They also really like to talk about how the person that they used to be friends with was always a bad person. These personal gripes that they've had with this person and unable to talk with them individually in private is very prominent in a lot of these callouts that I've seen throughout the years. This is why I believe there is a bunch of backstabbing in the community, which also contributes to the creators being wary of one another, and honestly, I can't even blame them. I think the best way to fix this issue as a community is to not hold anyone to high expectations. Everyone is human and everyone is bound to make dumb mistakes. If these mistakes are innocent ones that can be fixed, then I don't believe we should be dogpiling them for no reason. Side note, but I think we should also all stop pretending that whenever a creator is called out that we quote-unquote knew a creator was always bad. I think it's okay to admit you were wrong, and I think it's okay to admit that you were once deceived. While we shouldn't particularly idolize anyone, I think that everyone should come in with the mindset that people can change, whether it be for the better or for the worse. Being ready to deal accordingly with the latter option by expecting it by default will make it so we can better manage and relate our criticism in a way that doesn't demonize anyone. And in regards to the content creators themselves, if you're getting criticized in a sincere and nice manner where it is very obvious that the commenter, whoever's criticizing you, wants you to change, you should be able to handle that criticism. Whenever you join the commentary community, you are actively criticizing people. That is the whole point of commentary. So it is only fair for you to admit that you will also receive criticism, and if you are unable to handle that, then you should not be making commentary videos, you should not be making callouts, you should keep yourself as a viewer only. I've seen countless times throughout my years in these intertwined communities people making unnecessary callouts on the most mundane stuff ever, usually due to ignorance or personal bias. There are definitely people who do this quite often, however, I will not be stating any names here, as these ideas are based solely on my personal opinions and are frankly nobody's business but my own. I have also seen people add unnecessary and inappropriate criticisms into their callouts. There should be no reason why abuse allegations should have the same leverage of art style theft. Those subjects are not comparable. Police learn to read the room when it comes to making serious allegations in your callouts. There's also a problem of people being called all the worst things in the world. You have made a mistake and now you're being called a Nazi, pedophile, necro, pro shipper, even though there's no evidence to prove these things. It is genuinely so wild to see people being called these things for non-issues. I've mostly seen this issue prevalent with art that makes others uncomfortable, such as vent art. Also, this does not include artists that straight up romanticize and promote illegal activities. There also should be no reason as to why you're making fun of anyone's art or anyone's intellect when making a call out on them. It is incredibly unnecessary and inappropriate, and it just ruins the credibility of the person making the call out. It makes it seem like your call out is done for petty reasons and not for awareness or whatever you claim it to be. I think it is important to leave call outs to situations where people were or are at the risk of getting hurt. Keep out petty grievances since it's clear that it helps no one other than to make oneself look better than the other person they're calling out. Also, when making videos, the tone of your voice can make the call out questionable. Seeming irrationally angry when making a call out makes it seem like you're thinking without much logic. It's always important to talk in a concise and respectful manner so your point gets across in the best way possible. Remember to keep out personal high school drama as grievances off the internet. They only serve to make everyone in the situation and any bystanders upset, and is again completely unnecessary. There are also instances where people nitpick others' experiences. There is no reason why we should be questioning someone's identity or abuse to make them seem worse than they already are. We should be able to separate someone's victimization from their mistakes. Also, there should not be a big amount of videos repeating the same thing over and over again. If you have nothing important to add and are just repeating information that was already given to the general public, then you might as well just link the Google Doc or the video that was previously made. Making videos on a situation where you were not personally involved and are just repeating information that was already given to you can result in a telephone type of situation where you are spreading misinformation by accident, and that helps no one. Sometimes it truly feels like people make these videos for attention rather than for calling out problematic behavior and helping their community members. When making a call out, it is important to make sure that the call out is absolutely necessary. If the situation can be resolved by asking the person what they did, please just ask them. Being able to properly communicate will vastly decrease the amount of trashy callouts in both of these communities. Make sure to have proper evidence and to provide context and explanations for the evidence you are providing. Make sure to not exaggerate or add unnecessary information to convey a narrative. Never convey a narrative. State your evidence, your reasoning, and that's it. If the person you are calling out has done anything illegal, such as abusing children or animals, and any other action along those lines, make sure to report it to the proper authorities. Your first priority should not be making a call out or a video. It should be getting a dangerous person away from a position in which they can hurt others. Also, quick side notes for those who know. If you are implying that you already presented all of your evidence to the proper authorities and they are conducting an investigation on the person you're calling out, don't make a video while the investigation is going on. There's no reason for you to do that. Making that video just makes the investigation harder for the authorities that you so say are involved in the situation already. Just don't make a video until the investigation is over. Just don't do it. Please. Sorry, I got a little heated, but genuinely, this is one of the most stupid situations that I've seen happen in such a long time. Whatever. On the issue of children being called out, it's very disheartening to see that children are more often than not put on a higher pedestal and receive more scrutiny than the adults in the community. Children are the ones that are constantly getting called out for their immature, impulsive, and childlike behavior because, well, no duh, they are children. Adults in the community are very called out, and if they are, a majority of the time they are babyfied and victimized by the people in these communities. Stop treating ill-intended adults committing crimes and committing offensive remarks like babies. This also applies to teenagers who are around the age range of 16 to 18. They know damn well what they're doing. I personally believe that we should not be making callouts on minors. I do realize that sometimes it is necessary, and when it is done, that we shouldn't be victimizing these minors just because they are minors. But I also feel like sometimes the negative effects of calling these minors out often outweighs whatever awareness is meant to be spread in the community. A lot of the times, making callouts on minors ends up with the minor's personal information, not just doxing information, but also like their traumas and their sexual life being leaked. And it's genuinely very gross to see people be so invested in this type of stuff. Dog, I'ma keep it a bug. It is none of y'all fucking business what these minors do behind closed doors. And whenever there's people in the community saying that adults should be the one making commentary on these types of situations, I agree on paper, right? I don't think that minors should put themselves in a situation where they need to go investigate things that their brain is quite literally not developed to handle, 18 plus topics. But most oftentimes than not, these adults end up handling these situations in a very unserious manner, and they sometimes take these situations as jokes, which is also very wrong on their part. Apart from it just being weird, in my opinion, like, why are you, as an adult with a job and a family, so invested in drama surrounding children? But I digress. Children will ultimately get in trouble and face consequences for their actions, but I don't think that adults should be making fun and bullying these children over stuff that they could have done as well when they were children too. It is just very gross to see over and over and over again adults dogpiling on children and holding children to the same standards that they would supposedly hold their peers to. Stop treating minors like they are adults and as if they are mature enough to not commit mistakes. There should be absolutely no reason why anyone, and especially adults, should be talking about the personal interest of children. Like I said, no one should be talking about the personal relationship that children have gone through. No one should be talking about the personal mental illnesses and symptoms such as the paraphilias of a mentally ill child. This only perpetrates and exposes these already vulnerable minors to dangerous actors. It is very clear when adults do this, it is often has to do with them wanting to have a little bit of enthusiasm in their life. You know that they just want to shit on children because more often than not, these children don't know how to properly defend themselves, or they have not been doing this for a very long time. These kids have yet to have the experience to be able to properly defend themselves. There is also such a big problem with minors dealing with topics that they will never be ready to fully handle until they are adults. Such topics that I see frequently discussed by children being paraphilias, abuse of any kind, and other illegal activities I am unable to think of right now. It is important to acknowledge that whenever a minor is making a call out or a video on 18 plus topics, that they are never and will never be developmentally, mentally, legally, or anything else, they're not developed enough to talk about those things until they are adults. I don't know why we let minors talk about these things. It is so dystopian to think about kids having to do research on things they shouldn't and cannot be consuming because they are minors. To make it even worse, most of the time, whenever they talk about these topics, it often involves other minors, which means that they are actively putting other minors at risk for a call out, which is so gross. I genuinely just think that minors just shouldn't make call outs on people when it regards illegal activities. I think that we as a whole, whenever there's illegal activity that is happening, that someone is conducting, that we should all agree that that information should be reported to the proper authorities and just let them handle it, especially when it involves minors. We should stop babyfying adults and we should stop treating adults like they know it all, because it's very clear from a lot of situations that they don't know jack shit about what they're talking about most of the time, especially when in regards to minors. Because like I previously said, I just think it's very weird and very alarming that these adults are so invested in children's drama. I'm not saying that adults or minors can't make commentary videos. If you want to go ahead and make a commentary video on someone, I think that's perfectly fine. But if you know that you are not able to handle the situations involved in a logical sense, or if you're a child talking about topics you shouldn't even be invested in because you're a child, then you just shouldn't make the video. It's not worth it. Also, not to mention that a lot of the times people that constantly push out these call out videos and stuff, how does it feel to constantly be thinking about other people doing atrocious shit all the time? I genuinely don't know how people keep up making call outs on people. Like, does it not affect your mental at least a little bit? In conclusion, there are a lot of problems in the community. Some of them I may have not even mentioned here because there are so many. Yet this community is very complex. I think that's okay to a degree. Um, However, these are the issues that I've seen most prominent and I've seen that have been escalating throughout the years, and so I wanted to shed a light on those. Like I previously stated, if you want to keep making commentary videos, I think that's fine, but please do so in a respectful manner that actually upholds the perspective and opinions that you have. If you are not a player that is directly involved in the situation, don't make commentary videos because it just makes it seem like you're projecting an opinion rather than having any thoughts for yourself, and I think that's disingenuous to a degree. Also, nobody in the community is 100% honest about their principles and their morals. A lot of the time, many of these people will come off as incredibly hypocritical, and I think it is important for everyone to have that in mind. Just because someone may present themselves to be a good person in the public space does not mean that behind closed doors they are not insane people. And if someone is being called out for something that a lot of people need to be aware of, I think that's completely fine. If there is someone that is actively hurting people and a call out is being made, I think that's completely fine. But I also think it is very important to not put yourself in a situation where you put yourself at risk to also be getting hurt. Make sure to give people the compassion and empathy that you would also want to receive if you were ever to be called out for actions that can be corrected. I just think that we as a community should use our brains and our hearts to show empathy and to show logic and reason towards these situations. If I missed anything or there's anything else that I got wrong, go ahead and leave it in the comments. I genuinely want to see what you guys got to say about this because this is something that has been in my brain since 2023. Most of this script that I read throughout this video I made when I was like 16. I made this script originally 3 years ago. Like that's genuinely crazy to me that I literally almost had to change nothing about it because these issues are still persistent and in fact have been escalating more. But anyways, I'm just yapping at this point. I need to shut up. But yeah, if you guys have anything that I missed, just want to criticize me on something that I got wrong, I'm open to that. You guys can just leave those in the comments. I'll try to respond as many as I can. But yeah, anyways, have a good day. y'all. That's all I wanted to say about that, honestly. Okay.